about to whip somebody's ass. Oh, I'm about to whip somebody's ass. Oh, if you don't leave me alone, you're gonna have to send me home, 'cause I'm about to whip somebody's ass.
Is there ever a better song to open a podcast than Pastor Ray Hagan's I'm Gonna Whip Somebody's Ass? Welcome to A Few Extra Bucs, our podcast here on pewterpirates.com. The reason we're playing that song, you may think, okay, that's Bruce Arians. We're all fired up, Buccaneer fans. Well, Bruce Arians actually used that song to fire up the Arizona Cardinals back in the day when they had a 2-game losing streak. Tyrann Mathieu and Patrick Peterson on A Football Life, the great series on NFL Network, back that up. Just part of what Bruce Arians brings to a Bucs locker room that desperately needs a different culture. I'm going to bring in Justin Thomas and Roy Cummings, our Buccaneer Insider, in just a bit. But first, I want to thank our title sponsors, House of Brews and Sea Dog Brewing Company. Great brews, great food, great service. Justin, thanks for downloading that. I'm guessing before we talked today, you'd never heard of that song.
No, but I have to say, it's a great song.
You know, that makes me want to go play football right now. I don't know about you, Roy Cummings.
I'll tell you what, man. Yeah, straight from Top of the Pops right there. That's a classic. That's a classic. My guess is we're going to hear that one played. Maybe not at Raymond James Stadium, but those of us who are fortunate enough to get out there for a practice at One Buc Place, we might get a chance to hear that every once in a while.
I think Jameis Winston would love that song. I think O.J. Howard. I'm thinking Mike Evans. We can go down the list. How do you not love that song? And if you take kind of the pulse of Buccaneer Nation, they're kind of saying, how do you not love Bruce Arians? I haven't heard many people say anything really negative about him. I think my only, pause with him is his health. And we're going to play clips of this interview, but Bruce Arians talked about his health among many other topics with Rich Eisen. And here's what he had to say about, obviously he retired from the Arizona Cardinals last year, and it was because of family, but mainly because of health. And here's what he had to say about that.
You know, we did everything soup to nuts down in Tampa. My doctors weren't involved with any questions. And I'm other than losing 30 pounds, I'm in good shape.
I can't wait for this guy's press conferences. I hope he's healthy. I hope he's obviously committed, Roy. But overall, I think health is the biggest concern. Do you have any other concerns with this hiring?
No, health was my only concern and want to. You know, how badly did he want to be a part of it here? And, I'm sure we'll play it. But if not, that same interview with Rich Eisen today, he explained, hey, all of a sudden everything started falling together. He had a chance to put together his old coaching staff. He had a chance to go back and work with Jason Light, which he was excited about. He had an opportunity to go work with Jameis Winston, who he really likes and thinks has a tremendous upside. It looks like it was one of those situations where, hey, Bruce, did you ever get back into coaching? Yeah, if the right situation came around, if everything kind of fell into place. Well, guess what? I'm not quite sure how it happened, but everything kind of fell into place. And as Bucs fans, you got to be pretty excited because sometimes fate deals you a tough hand, but it all of a sudden seems like fate's dealing the Buccaneers and their fans a pretty good hand here because right now, as Bruce Arians said, everything is falling into place for him, and I think it's falling into place for the Buccaneers. They've got what, in my opinion, the best of all the candidates out there for head coaches this year. They've got it.
Yeah, I mean, you look around the NFL, and it's really guys who have hung out with Sean McVay for maybe 5 minutes. Oh, I want that guy. I want that hot coordinator. A lot of unproven guys. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury, groomed Manziel to some degree at Texas A&M, and then Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, but hasn't proven himself as a head coach. I mean, Bruce Arians, to me, checks all the boxes and then some. But, Roy, you've covered this franchise for a long time. Whether it's Raheem Morris, whether it's Greg Schiano, Lovie Smith, or recently Dirk Cutter, I can't remember the Bucs fan base being more excited about a coach since really John Gruden.
Well, I guess that's possible. You might be right. We don't have a gauge on it really. It's really just a matter of listening to, fans expressing their opinions and everything else. I can remember it. It just seems, unfortunately, I guess I'm a little jaded at this point. because I do remember the same kind of excitement. Probably not the same with John Gruden. I think there was a lot more hesitancy then because it took so long to get John Gruden. They were giving up an awful lot. There were still some people who were wondering, why do we even get rid of Tony Dungy? Why is it taking so long to find somebody? Why do we have to give up so much to get a guy? Once he won, everything changed. But, I also remember that when Raheem Morris, there was some skepticism there. But then when you went to Greg Schiano, there was a lot of excitement. When you went to Lovie Smith, there was a lot of excitement. Even when you went to Dirk Cutter, there was a lot of excitement. People saying, they're always excited about the new guy. It's kind of like draft day. Everybody's excited about the new guy. But this time, the difference for me is I think the excitement is justified. I thought it was justified with Lovie Smith too, and to a degree with Dirk Cutter. But the Glazers are kind of they're quick to pull the trigger and also quick to to snuff it out. So this time I think there's a legitimate reason to be excited because again I think this was by far the best choice you could make for this team at this time.
Yeah, you look at Matt LaFleur up in Green Bay, and I mentioned Kingsbury. To me, that's really rolling the dice. I don't think the Bucs could really afford to roll the dice. They had to go with the proven commodity. We talked about this in our last podcast. I mean, Bruce Arians to me was a clear choice, and you remarked that they had to get somebody proven as a head coach, and I think that's a big key in this hire.
I agree with you 100%, and I've heard through the grapevine a little bit that the change in coaches. And now look, I honestly believe that this situation here with Bruce Arians has kind of been in the works now for maybe a month or more. Because I've kind of heard through the grapevine that if the Buccaneers didn't have a feel that they were going to be able to get Bruce Arians, they might not have fired Dirk Cutter, that they would have held on to Dirk Cutter.
Wow. How about that?
Yeah, I'm hearing, and I'll tell you what, when you put the pieces together, look at the questions that we've had since, the last couple of weeks of the regular season, when it was pretty inevitable, it seemed, that Dirk Cutter was out. There was a lot of questions, Jason Light would probably go with him. Will Jameis Winston go with him? Well, all of a sudden in that last week, we find out that no, Jameis Winston is staying. And then we find out on the day that Dirk Cutter is fired that Jason Light's been retained. Well, you look at a couple of the things that brought Bruce Arians here, Jason Light is one of them, and Jameis Winston is the other. So in essence, it seemed to me like they were kind of creating a foundation for Bruce Arians to say, okay, well, you gave me everything I'm looking for here. I've got to take a chance with this. So I think these were conversations with Bruce Arians that were taking place probably a month before the season ended. They were in a position where they felt like this is going to, we're probably going to be able to get him what he's looking for because other coaches were going to be fired and other people were going to be allowed to come in and be a part of his organization or this organization under Bruce Arians. So I think this is something that's kind of been in the works, and I wonder if it was going to happen if Bruce Arians wasn't interested. If he wasn't interested, they might have stuck with Dirk Cutter.
That's interesting. Here's Bruce Arians. He's talking about what you've already mentioned, but kind of backs it up a little bit on his comfort level in taking this job as the 12th head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Jason Light's a good friend. That intrigued me, having a general manager I know and I trust and is really good. And then, gosh, my whole staff became available. Assistant coaches, like, what's going on here? Everything's just falling into place, and I got more and more excited about it. And to be able to put this, what I think is one of the best staffs in the league together, really got me excited and can't wait to get started.
Yeah, I wonder this, though, Roy, and you maybe hinted at this. If Jason Light doesn't have a great relationship with a guy like Bruce Arians, is he the general manager of the Bucs right now?
I would be willing to bet no. But again, I think that this is why Jason Light was retained. Two reasons, and I said it before in earlier podcasts. Number one, they need someone who knew the landscape of the NFL and was able to go and do the work for them and find a coach, because the Glazers are not good at that, and I think they understand that and recognize it. But at the same time, if your number one target is Bruce Arians, and you know that your chances of getting him are much greater if Jason Light is here as your general manager and Jameis Winston is here as your quarterback. Well, then why not hold on to him at least through the search process? And I also believe, look, owners do talk to each other. It's the job of a general manager like Jason Light, who's going to let a coach go, to kind of know what else is going on around the league. My guess is that he understood that Todd Bowles was going to be let go in New York, and that Adam Gase was going to be let go in Miami, freeing up some of the people. And again, these are moves that freed up some of the people that Bruce Arians wanted to bring in, make part of his staff. So when you know that these moves are going to be made, and you can go to Bruce Arians and say, Bruce, look, Adam Gase is going to be gone, so if you want Clyde Christensen, you'll have him. Todd Bowles is going to be gone. He may get a shot somewhere else, but you know what? Everything I'm hearing says no. And look, Bruce Arians can look around too. So I really think that there's just a lot of things fell into place here, and the Buccaneers decided, look, there's no question this is our guy, and it's all working in our favor. We got to make the move and make it now.
Yeah, we'll get to his staff and Bowles and how great that is in just a second. But it's clear nobody benefits from Bruce Arians than Jameis Winston. I mean, Jameis Winston just turned 25. I hope, Jameis, when you blew out the candles, you were hoping and praying for Bruce Arians, because this is such a big deal for him. And his history with Bruce Arians goes back a long way. And Arians talked about that with Rich Eisen this week.
Jameis was in my football camp when he was in, I think, 9th or 10th grade. And Jake, my son, and I had a football camp in Birmingham, and I was like, wow, is this kid talented. I actually thought he was going to be a baseball player because he was throwing about 90 miles an hour back then. But he won our quarterback competition, and, I showed all those kids the Super Bowl ring, and I think it made an impression on him because he still talks about it today.
And if that wasn't cool enough, Jameis Winston had to love hearing this. When asked about the upside of Jameis Winston by Rich Eisen, how about this from Bruce Arians?
I think he can win it all. I mean, he has the intelligence, the toughness, and obviously the arm ability to lead a team. We got to put the right pieces around him. Obviously, we got to do some things defensively, but if anybody can do it defensively, Todd Bowles can do it.
He mentions Todd Bowles, but let's go back to Jameis Winston, Roy. I mean, to me, Jameis Winston is lucky in a lot of ways. You mentioned it early. They could have cleaned house. They could have brought in a coach that wanted his own quarterback, and there are some big names out there that maybe wanted to do that. But Jameis Winston, boy, I think he's really lucky in a lot of ways, Roy.
Yeah, I think Jameis Winston is very fortunate. But, at the same time, I think Bruce Arians considers himself fortunate. And this is one of the things I think fans need to realize is that, look, Jameis Winston, for a kid who's 25, about to be 25, hadn't yet turned 25, he has accomplished an awful lot in his first 4 years in the NFL. Is he a perfect quarterback? No. Does he need to take to correct a lot of things? Yes. But he's accomplished an awful lot for a young quarterback. And I think Dirk Cutter and Mike Bajakian have brought him a long way. We know, there's a lot of people ready to give up on Jameis Winston, which I think is just insane. And the reason I think it's insane is a lot of the things what Bruce Arians just said. He's a hardworking kid. I mean, one of the first things that you worry about with a quarterback is, how much can he be a leader? Can he be? Is he going to work hard enough? Is he going to be the first guy in the building? Is he going to get there at 5 o'clock in the morning and stay till 8 o'clock at night? Is he going to put in the time necessary to become great, or at least approach it if he's got the skill set? And Jameis Winston checks all those boxes. He does have leadership skills. He wants it badly. He works at it hard. Yes, has he made mistakes? Of course he's made mistakes. We've all made mistakes. Everybody's made mistakes. But, all of his mistakes combined, he hasn't missed as much time as Marcus Mariota. And I'm not going to get into that comparison necessarily, but that's the only one you can compare with. And right now, I would take Jameis Winston over Marcus Mariota in a snap because of all the things Bruce Arians just said. And because I know that Jameis Winston is about as durable a quarterback as you're going to find. So I think there's an awful lot of upside. I think Dirk Cutter deserves a lot of credit, along with Mike Bajakian, for bringing Jameis Winston to where he is now. Now it's time, like a rocket booster. Let's see how far Bruce Arians can take him. Bruce Arians seems to think he can take him all the way. And I don't have any reason to doubt it.
You know, I get the whole everybody's made mistakes, Roy, and I'm a big second chances guy, but boy, Jameis Winston has made more mistakes than most. And to me, you would hope that he's learned so much and was humbled this year, being benched, being suspended. You have to feel internally, Jameis Winston has to feel like not only this is my last chance in Tampa Bay, but I'm getting it with the guy who believes in me and maybe deep down wasn't sure if that would ever happen.
Yeah, again, he needs to be down on his knees, thanking his lucky stars and thanking the good Lord for bringing Bruce Arians to him at this point. And again, thanking Dirk Cutter for having done what he did and thanking the Bucs for sticking with him. Because you're right, he has made a lot of mistakes. There's no doubt. Now, as far as off-field mistakes, as far as we know, the last one happened 3 years ago. And if we find out differently, well, then it's a different narrative. But right now, the last mistake he made off the field was 3 years ago. He still makes a lot of mistakes on the field, yes. But again, fans have to understand that that is a byproduct of the scheme. It's an aggressive scheme. It's a downfield passing scheme. And this just in, I don't think it's going to change much. Bruce Arians is an aggressive downfield kind of guy too. And so is Byron Leftwich, who's going to probably be calling the plays and running the offense. So I believe, but I think that too. I think Byron Leftwich coming in is going to be a good voice in Jameis Winston's ear because he's been there, he's done it. They're similar in ways. I think, again, I just think that everything in terms of Jameis Winston just got a little bit better and maybe a lot better with Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich coming in. I really applaud the work that Dirk Cutter and Mike Bajakian did with him. But if you're going to make a change, I'm not sure it can get much better than what you brought in here to help him now.
Man, I feel old. Byron Leftwich is the friggin' offensive coordinator. I remember that guy playing, it seems like just a stone throw a couple of years ago. And then Freddie Kitchens gets the job in Cleveland. I covered him as a freshman quarterback at Alabama, a guy who liked to party a ton and would tick off Gene Stallings. So kudos to the next generation of coaches. We're seeing it right before our eyes. You know what, though? Those guys, of course, paid their dues. But there are so many ways that you can really appreciate Bruce Arians. But one of them is the fact that this guy stuck around coaching when many would have quit. And he went through the ups and the downs. And if you don't believe me, listen to Bruce Arians talking to the NFL network cameras in his football life, kind of giving you his resume right here.
The number of times we got fired and had to move. Virginia Tech, the first one. Mississippi State, we left for Alabama. Alabama, we left for Temple, got fired at Temple. Went to Kansas City, got fired in Kansas City. Went to Mississippi State and left. Went to New Orleans, got fired. Went to Alabama, got fired. Went to Indianapolis, left to be the coordinator for the Browns, got fired. Went to the Steelers, receiver coach, became the coordinator, got fired. Indianapolis, always a good spot. Get the Cardinal job.
Man, I'm tired after hearing that, Roy.
Man, how did you keep it all straight? But I guess maybe you never forget when all the times you got fired.
You know, Chuck Pagano saved his career in a lot of ways. He was fired from Pittsburgh, called him to help him out in Indianapolis, and then unfortunately Pagano had leukemia, I think cancer, and then Arians became the interim coach and had a winning record and really resurrected his football career. It really makes you wonder. You see a lot of these guys in the NFL, and they never get their due, and they get fired a lot. And Bruce Arians is the ultimate survivor. I mean, I think you appreciate the fact that he's the quarterback whisperer. You appreciate the fact that the job he did in Arizona, but really got to appreciate the road he took to get to this point.
Yeah, he's been through a lot, obviously. And you know what? Maybe appreciate the fact that he decided to leave on his own terms a year ago.
Yeah.
Maybe you could see that, he kind of maybe feels like he maxed out in Arizona and did what he could with that team. And they missed their window, and it wasn't going to quite go the way he wanted it to going forward. And maybe he decided, it's time for me to move on, let somebody else give it a shot. Along with obviously trying to, pay close attention to his health and his family, which is important, obviously, the most important thing, really. And so I give him credit for that. But, at the end of the day, he's got that itch, and he said this in the Rich Eisen interview as well. He just, man, it just got itchier and itchier. He said the more he looked at the Buccaneers opportunity, and again, just fortunate is the word that keeps coming to my mind for everybody involved in this situation right now. And I'm not sure the last time I can remember how, the Bucs really being fortunate to have somebody on their side like this. And look, he's such a down to earth guy. That's the other thing, and we haven't quite gotten into that yet. This is one of the reasons fans are going to love him. This is a guy who's going to embrace, the fan base and embrace the media, and he's just a down to earth good guy. And in fact, I was talking to a buddy of mine, Jerry Dulac, in Pittsburgh last night. Covers the Steelers, has covered him for years. Knows Bruce Arians extremely well, has known him for years. And Jerry Dulac told me, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, he told me last night, he said, you know what, Roy? He said, the NFL is a better place when Bruce Arians is in it. And you know what? I think he's right. And I hope we all find out over the course of the next 5+ years that he's absolutely on the mark about that.
Yeah, you mentioned the fact that he's a likable guy. I actually like Dirk Cutter in a lot of ways, but Dirk Cutter, I don't think really, he likes his X's and O's guy. I didn't really like dealing with the media a lot, even though I didn't find him that difficult. I found that he answered a question if it was a legitimate question. It wasn't a stupid question. But I think Arians is going to be almost not Steve Spurrier-esque, not quite that colorful, but I think every press conference you're going to take away a funny sound bite. And it makes, I've never covered a coach like that, frankly. I've always covered a guy, like a Tom Coughlin or a Sean Payton, or, you like Tony Dungy and Gruden, but they're not like Bruce Arians. It's almost like a Rex Ryan with substance. That's how I think about Bruce Arians in a way.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you don't find too many like him in the NFL. And again, maybe that's what Jerry Dulac is referring to, is the NFL is a better place when you got guys like this. You're right. I think he's a guy who realizes or understands that, you want to work hard at it. And I don't know what his schedule is on a daily basis when he's coaching a team. But from what I've heard, he's one of those guys who says, hey, I'll put in the hours, but I'm not going to put in 14-hour days when 10-hour days will do it. And good for him, because that's how Tony Dungy was. That's how Steve Spurrier was. And, this whole idea of, well, if I, outwork the other guy, when they can never say I didn't work hard enough. Well, okay, that's great. But, how about just working smarter and getting the job done and finding a way to do it so that you can have a life away from the football field. You it's not all about football. And I think that's part of what Bruce Arians is about. And, I've been fortunate enough to cover a few people like him. Tony Dungy was one, obviously. Gruden, he was a maniac in terms of work ethic, but he always had a good line for you too. He was honest with you. Other than that, I'd have to go to hockey and cover Terry Crisp and Jacques Demers and some of those guys. They were like that, and those are the kind of people that an entire community embraces when they're more down to earth, and that's who Bruce Arians is.
You mentioned the itch was getting itchier. He told Rich Eisen that. He was saying the broadcast booth really wasn't getting it done for him either. He got a little restless. I actually heard him tell somebody that it was more involved than he thought it would be. And you know what? If he's going to work that hard, I might as well get back into coaching. So I think nothing satisfies Bruce Arians, obviously, more than coaching. And I remember that Football Life, the NFL Network. Man, if you haven't caught that, check it out. All of them are great, but Bruce Arians was really good. His wife, thought he was going to be retired a number of times, and the phone would ring. And obviously she's very supportive. And time again, he'd want to get back into coaching. Before we get to 3 and out, I want to talk about the defensive side of the football. Obviously we know Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich are going to bring a lot. They have a lot of weapons to work with. But Todd Bowles coming in has run the 3-4 a lot. He's run the 4-3-2. But how is that going to impact this defensive line, Roy? I mean, I know it's hard to guess at this point, but obviously that's a great pedigree of Todd Bowles to come in here. But I think a lot of changes are on the way here.
I do too. And, I look at the roster right now, and I may be completely wrong about this, but I'm starting to think that this, one thing you're gonna have to do with a 3-4 is you've got to have, in order to do this, you've got to have really strong cornerback play. You need it with a 4-3 as well. But if you're going to play a 3-4, you really need strong cornerback play. They're a little bit weak there right now. But when I look at the Bucs personnel, I think the front seven is more suited right now to a 3-4 scheme than it is a 4-3 scheme. The reason I say that is you just drafted Vita Vea, who is clearly a 3-4 nose tackle type, right?
Yeah.
You've got Quan Alexander and some pretty good linebackers on this team that could certainly, I think you could probably play the 3-4 right now, and with the front seven at least, be very representative and pretty good at it, because you've got an awful lot of athleticism at the linebacker position. So think of getting your best athletes on the field more often. And that, to me, says 3-4 with this team the way it's structured right now. Bring in a couple of new cornerbacks, draft a couple perhaps in the first round, see what Vernon Hargraves has got in him still. Look at some of these other young kids that they drafted a year ago, and you just may have a completely revolutionized defensive scheme here. I think it's going to happen, and I'll be interested to see how they go about it. I think watch Gerald McCoy here. If Gerald McCoy is retained, it probably suggests they're going to go a little bit more 4-3 or split it. But if Gerald McCoy is let go and there's no intention to bring him back at a lesser salary, then that would tell me that they're going 3-4 and they're going to start leaning on this linebacker talent that they've got, which I think is one of the deepest positions on the team.
Well, Todd Bowles is 55 years of age, but Bruce Arians and Bowles go way back to when Bowles played at Temple. And here's what Bruce Arians had to say to Rich Eisen about his relationship with Todd Bowles and what he may bring to the Bucs.
We had talked. He's another one. It's like a son to me. So I was more talking to him about his future. We all get fired. I've been fired so many times I can't count them all. And but then it led to this, and so he thought hard about it. I was doing my best sale job, and it's happened. So we're really excited to be back together.
One more question before 3 and out, Roy. We talked about the defensive side of the ball. It's amazing how everything seemingly is falling into place for the Bucs right now. There were some people like Peter King and other so-called experts around the NFL, actually like Peter King, but who said this Bucs job was maybe the least attractive of all the openings. We begged to differ in the last podcast, but to me, Bruce Arians, not only with Jameis Winston, but all the weapons he has on offense, I think if they fix the O-line and get a running back in here who has more experience and can do more, boy, he's got to be licking his chops at this offense.
Oh, I think so. And, I've heard some rumors, and I'm not spreading this. I've heard it. I've heard nothing to confirm it, that Bruce Arians might have some interest in bringing Le'Veon Bell in here.
Yeah.
If you get rid of Gerald McCoy, you could do that. I'm anxious to see if that's something. And look, I'm not a big fan of Le'Veon Bell, as a matter of what he did as a result of what he did last year. But I think if anybody can get him to focus on football, and if I'm going to trust anyone to be his head coach, Bruce Arians would be the kind of guy, because I don't think Bruce Arians puts up with much BS. I think before he would ever allow the Bucs to sign that guy, he would get a commitment from him, say, look, I don't want any shenanigans here. You're going to play football and you're going to play hard for us. And if you don't, we're going to. So I'm anxious to see how that goes. But to me, it's just another reason that, I didn't think that. Look, I've said it before. I never thought the Buccaneers was anywhere near the worst job. I thought it was actually one of the better jobs, because I think this team is closer than a lot of people believe. I think there's a lot of pieces to work with. You're going to have a great draft opportunity with the 5th overall pick and the 37th overall pick. So I think it's a really good job to have. And obviously Bruce Arians feels the same way, because outside of what he considers his dream job, which is not to coach the Cleveland Browns, his dream is to be the coach of the Cleveland Browns and bring them back take them back to the Super Bowl. Falling short of that opportunity, I think he took advantage of what he sees as the best opportunity here. This is the only job he wanted outside of that one, and I think his interest in that one faded pretty quickly when he started to see what he had here in terms of people that he could work with. So again, I think Peter King was way off the mark on that, and it's going to be interesting to see how the national narrative changes over the coming months now that Bruce Arians is here. First of all, you're already starting to see it. You're going to see a lot more interest in the Buccaneers because of Bruce Arians, and my guess is you're going to see a lot more people suddenly talking a lot differently about the Buccaneers because Bruce Arians is going to put that idea in people's heads that this team is nowhere near as bad as people think.
Yeah, two things on that. The NFC South, which looked like the best division in football before this season, doesn't look that great moving forward now. Atlanta's very vulnerable. It's funny they hired Dirk Cutter. We haven't even talked about that as their new offensive coordinator. That'll make things interesting a couple times next year. Carolina's future is kind of murky with Cam Newton. And I'll say this, if the Saints win the Super Bowl, Drew Brees could retire. I'm just kind of throwing that out there, even though he told me a few weeks ago he still has more football in him. So there are more questions than exclamation points with the NFC South. And back to your point on Le'Veon Bell, think about Arizona and the locker room and the culture he created. Tyrann Mathieu, got in a lot of trouble at LSU, and he didn't get in any trouble with Bruce Arians and still has. And I think he can make an impact with guys like Mathieu and maybe Le'Veon Bell. Well, speaking of trouble, Justin, you know what time it is. Three and out, the first one in the Bruce Arians era. Speaking of trouble, I want to start off our first question. This is, of course, 3 questions, and we're out of here. And we're going to have Justin Thomas go first. That's kind of our New Year's resolution in 2019. I still can't believe it's 2019. But we've had a lot of knucklehead news about the Bucs in the last month. Who do you think is the biggest Bucs knucklehead after the season was completed? Is it Brent Grimes or Deshaun Jackson?
It's not even close. It's Brent Grimes. I don't want to hear anybody complaining about what you have to do for $7 million. There's a lot of things I'll do for $7 million. And covering the best receiver on the team that I'm facing on a particular Sunday that's one of the easiest things I would think I would be asked to do for $7 million if I'm a cornerback in the NFL. Look, I lost a lot of respect for Brent Grimes. If his wife had said that, I sometimes wonder, was that his wife doing a ventriloquist deal there? Was she the one actually saying those things? Because that's not the Brent Grimes that, I talk to occasionally with the Buccaneers. But son of a gun, I don't want to hear anybody complain. I mean, man, $7 million, and you don't think you're the best cornerback on the team. What did you think your job was going to be when you had three rookies? Other 3 rookies next to you there in the secondary. What did you think? Who did you think was going to get the toughest assignment? Did you think it was going to be one of those kids? I mean, what are you thinking? By far, it's without any question, it was Brent Grimes.
I think Roy is a little fired up there, and I'm fired up. I'm going to get to it in just a second. But Justin Thomas, biggest knucklehead, Brent Grimes or Deshaun Jackson?
Oh, without a doubt, Brent Grimes. I was shocked when I read that he felt disrespected that they asked him to cover Antonio Brown. Like Roy said, I mean, that's his job. What did he expect? I mean, he's earning the most, and he expects someone else to do a better job, like Roy said, a rookie or something? I don't know if he was just mad that he couldn't perform well or whatever. I don't know. That's one of those like head scratchers that I just can't figure out what he's trying to get at.
And the other thing about that, guys, is he accepted the $7 million. Yeah. If you thought you deserved more, then go find the team that was willing to give you more. The reason he came back to Tampa Bay and played for $7 million is because $7 million was all he could get. The most he could get. That was it. Nobody was offering him 7.5 or 8 or the 13 that he thinks you need to be paid in order to cover Antonio Brown. So that's the best you could get. If that's not enough, then don't play. If that's too much, if that's too little for you to be the number 1 corner and actually have to follow a top-level receiver once in a while, well, then I'm sorry. Maybe you shouldn't play the game anymore. And you know what? I think he'll get his wish. I think he's done, and he should be.
Anybody who defends Brent Grimes, I'm sorry, but you're an idiot. Because you know what? It's almost like Chris Godwin saying, you know what? I'm catching a lot of passes. I'm going to start dropping passes because I'm not getting paid like a number 1 receiver in the NFL. I mean, it's almost like that kind of logic. And then on top of it, he's not being a good teammate. And then the biggest thing to me is I'm like you, Roy. I'm surprised because I've dealt with Brent Grimes. I actually like him. He's always pretty stand up. He'll always talk, always give you time. But you got young guys like Carlton Davis and MJ Stewart listening to a guy like that who apparently was on the phone at halftime of the Bears game. That's why he was benched in the second half. But that's just such a bad – it's such a bad message on so many levels. Brent Grimes, that you make Deshaun Jackson look like Tim Tebow now moving forward here. Our second question,
and that is very hard to do.
Yeah, exactly. In our 3 and out, our second question, we talked about Jameis Winston benefiting from Bruce Arians. Besides Jameis Winston, because he's the obvious one, who do you think benefits the most out of these two guys, of the Bruce Arians regime coming in? O.J. Howard or Levante David?
I think Levante David, because I think for the first, to be honest, and I think for the first time since Greg Schiano, I think the fact that Todd Bowles is going to be here as the defensive coordinator is going to allow Levante David's skill set to be used in the best way possible.
Right.
I think Todd Bowles understands that in this NFL, you have got to be aggressive. You really have to go. They were a little bit more aggressive. Look, Mike Smith was a lot like Monty Kiffin. He played a lot of cover 2, played a lot of zone, wasn't a big fan of blitzing. Monty Kiffin was that way. It was all about, keep 7 guys back in coverage, keep their eyes on the ball, and, let them get – we don't care how many yards they get. We'll just keep them from scoring touchdowns and force them to kick field goals, if that, all day long. That was Mike Smith's philosophy. The game has changed now. You've got to go after the quarterback more. Mark Duffner knows that, got a little bit more aggressive, but not as aggressive as Todd Bowles is going to be. Todd Bowles is going to blitz a lot. And when you have linebackers like Levante David, who are at their best playing downhill, he is going to he's already an all-pro caliber player. But I think he's got a chance to increase his production level significantly as a result of Todd Bowles coming in, because Todd Bowles is going to be aggressive with him.
Justin?
I agree. O.J. Howard has got so much talent. I think he would do well under pretty much anyone. So I think with someone like Todd Bowles coming in who can help Levante, I think that to me seems to be he'll be able to gain more, I guess I would say, versus Bruce Arians. We're already working with a talented player like O.J. Howard.
Yeah, I agree. The reason I threw Levante David, because everything you said, Roy, I'm on the same page with. I think it's incredible how well Levante David has played when he hasn't, been utilized maybe to the max of his ability. And he's already been a great player in the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see how much better he gets. All right, our third question and our 3 and out. Man, I was dead wrong about the Alabama-Clemson National Championship game. I thought Saban, I'm an SEC, I'll admit it. I thought they were going to not roll over Clemson, but I thought even that first interception by Clemson, I thought, well, they'll bounce back. That Tua is just unbelievable. But I have never been more shocked after a game that was built up like that, maybe since, showing my age, like Georgetown, Villanova, or Houston, NC State back in the old, NCAA basketball days of the 80s. But who do you think has the better future in the next 5 years moving forward? Is it Nick Saban or Dabo Swinney?
I'm going to have to say Dabo Swinney. Although this is going to fire Nick Saban up. Dabo Swinney's riding the wave right now. He's on the top of it, man. He's hanging 10. But I'd say Nick Saban's going to be fired up. Nick Saban got and Alabama got surprised in that game. They know they're good, but I don't think they realize just how good Clemson is. And I think this is going to fire up Nick Saban a lot. But I think the way Dabo Swinney, I think his personality is going to help him. And I think he's going to have some pretty good success in recruiting. So I'm going to say Dabo Swinney is going to keep riding that wave over the next 5 years.
Justin.
Ooh, this is a tough one. Nick Saban has proven it over the 10-plus years. But Dabo Swinney's got something going on there. And I don't know. It's almost like a coin toss to me. You could pick one or the other. But I guess after this last game, which I agree, I was shocked. I thought Clemson maybe could win, but it'd be a close win. I didn't expect a blowout. I'll go with Dabo Swinney. I I mean, what he was able to do with a freshman QB was really impressive.
And that's another reason to pick Dabo, is because I think for the next 2 years, Tyler Lawrence is he's going to be the face of college football.
Yeah.
That guy's unbelievable. I mean, to me, I read a couple articles that he was the highest rated quarterback coming out of high school ever. Like, he had the best rating ever. And how many times have we seen a lot of those guys who are prototype, like Trevor Lawrence is, the 6'5", the big arm. But boy, that guy has it all. It's amazing. I have never seen a performance like that. You know, Alabama's defense may not have been as good as it was in recent years, but it's still Alabama's defense. They got 4 first-round picks on that defense, so it's going to be scary to see how good Trevor Lawrence is moving forward. Well, listen, great job, guys. We'll be at Bruce Arians' press conference on Thursday, and we'll give a video wrap here on pewterpirates.com. We'll keep giving you a few extra bucks podcasts. Man, I can't wait for the first ever Bruce Arians press conference. It's going to be fun stuff. A lot of big news coming up out of the Bucs, and we'll have you covered here on pewterpirates.com. Justin, maybe play it low, but we got to bring back the music we did off the top, the Bruce Arians motivational music.
I'm about to whip somebody's ass.
Hey, man, you know what? Don't get pumped up about that, Bucs fans. You can't get pumped up about anything. So, we're going to download that on your iPod, I'm sure, Buccaneer Nation. But moving forward here, we'll have you covered in the Bruce Arians Kick Some Ass era. We'd like to thank our title sponsors, House of Brews and Sea Dog Brewing Company. Great brews, great food, great service. We're out of here. We'll see you next time.